Hi guys! Welcome back to Chef's Japanese Kitchen!
Today's food war, I am challenging Chef Ryosuke over at Champ's Japanese Kitchen. Today's theme is the bento battle. Chef, if you're ready, let's do this.
Challenge accepted, CHEFPK. It's time for a bento battle. Let's get cooking! Okay guys, time to get serious if we want to win this one. Today, I'm going all out and making a luxury bento with 4 different dishes that are still healthy. And I'll be showing you a unique way to serve the rice too. Of course, you don't have to make all of these things for a bento, as it can be whatever you want. But why not try the dishes that you think look good? First up is Toriniku no Yasai Maki, which is chicken thigh rolled up with vegetables in the middle. Okay guys, the first thing we're going to do is prepare 1 large chicken thigh with the skin on. Let's remove any stringy or fatty parts. We also want our chicken to be about the same thickness all the way through. So any thicker parts we can cut part way through and flatten out. And then the idea here is we want to wrap the chicken around carrot and asparagus. So we want to cut these to be roughly the same size so they don't stick out of our chicken. We will slice up 1 carrot into thin sticks like this. And then for the asparagus, just snap off the hard stalk part and cut to the same size. Now, we want to parboil these a bit so we know they'll be nice and soft when we're done cooking our chicken. So, into a boiling pot of water, we will add a tablespoon of salt before cooking our asparagus for about 2 minutes. And 3 for the carrot. Now, all that's left to do is line our vegetables out and roll up our chicken. We also want to make sure this doesn't fall apart when we cook it. So, I'm using some kitchen twine here to tie it up. As long as the chicken doesn't come apart when we cook, you can tie this anyway. But the way I like to do this is to make a loop with my hand, pull the chicken through, make a loop, and repeat. Tie up the end nice and tight, and we're ready to cook. I've heated up some olive oil over a medium-high heat here, and first, we just want to brown the skin of our chicken. We're not trying to cook it all the way through, we just want all those edges a nice golden color. Once that's done, we'll take that out. And now, we're gonna finish cooking it off in a sweet and almost teriyaki-like sauce. Into a saucepan, we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of Japanese cooking sake, 2 tablespoons of mirin, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of water, and then we'll heat this up to a rolling boil. Once we see it start to boil, I'm also going to add 2 tablespoons of honey. Give that a stir, and we will add our chicken from before. And we want to gently coat our sauce over our chicken before we add our lid, and let simmer for around 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how thick your chicken is. Once that time is up, we will make sure to coat that in our sauce. That's all thickened up now. And let's set that aside to rest until it's cooled down. This will continue to cook a little bit as we let it sit, so don't cut into it straight away. Make sure to cover it in the sauce as well. That's our first dish done, which I'm gonna add to the bento box at the end of the video. Next, we're going to make Nasu no Butaniku Maki, which is eggplant that is wrapped in thin strips of pork with shiso leaves. This is a very simple recipe and could be great for adding to lunch boxes. First, we want to cut up our eggplant into quarters. And then, we're gonna let that soak in water for at least 5 minutes. This will stop our eggplant changing color and also make it taste a little less bitter. Once 5 minutes has passed, we'll take these out. And we wanna dry them off. And next, we're gonna wrap them with the shiso leaves in our thin strips of pork. Today, I'm using thin strips of pork shoulder, but this recipe will work with any part of the pork, like belly. We wanna lightly season the pork before adding a cup of shiso leaves. And then, we add our eggplant. And we're gonna roll these up. Make sure they're nice and tight. This will stop it from falling apart later on. And then finally, we want to sprinkle these with a little bit of flour. Now, like our chicken from before, we're gonna cook the outside of our little pork wraps over a medium-high heat. Place the open edges from the pork down so it won't easily fall apart. And make sure each edge gets nice and crispy. So that's nice and brown, we'll set that aside. And now, it's time to make the sauce we're going to coat our pork in. We will use the same frying pan, but let's wipe off any excess oil first. Now let's add 1 tablespoon of water, 1 tablespoon of mirin, 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, and 1 tablespoon of vinegar, and we're gonna let that reach a boil. And for some added flavor, I'm gonna add some grated garlic. But you can skip this step if you prefer. Now it's time to add our pork back in. Before adding the lid and letting that steam for about 5 minutes. Once that 5 minutes is over, we will make sure our meat is completely covered in the sauce before adding a little bit of shichimi, which is a mix of chili, sesame, dried seaweed, and other things. But just chili flakes will be fine here if you can find shichimi. And that's bento option number 2 done. Make sure to coat it in our delicious sauce. Now, we're gonna make a dish called Amakara-ni, which is beef in a sweet and savory sauce. First thing we wanna do is chop up some strips of ginger. I'm using about 10 grams of ginger here for about 200 grams of beef, which we will let soak in water for a little bit before we use them. Now into our frying pan, we are going to add 2 tablespoons of Japanese cooking sake, 4 tablespoons of mirin, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, and we will let that simmer. Once that started to boil, we will add a tablespoon of sugar and turn that to a low heat. Next, I have some thin cuts of beef which I'm gonna add to our sauce one at a time to stop them clumping together. This dish is almost like a really simple version of sukiyaki, perfect for days when you're a bit too busy to make something complicated. Once all our beef has been added, it should start to cook in no time. We want to mix that around until we can't see any pink left. So, we will add our slices of ginger, mix, and let cook for just a couple of minutes. And then we're done! So that's bento dish number 3 done. We've done chicken, pork, and beef. So let's try something with seafood next. We're gonna be making ebi no Satsuma-Age, which are like a Japanese version of fritters made with shrimp and vegetables. I have about 300 grams of shrimp here. I'm gonna deshell these and also devein them by cutting down the back of the shrimp and pulling out the little black line. If you buy pre-prepared shrimp, you can skip this step altogether. But the reason I chose shell-on is that if you wash the shells and then lightly fry them in the oil we're using for the fritter, it adds a lovely aromatic flavor to the oil, which you can then reuse for other dishes. Now, back to the shrimp. We're gonna wash them thoroughly before draining them off. We wanna make sure these are completely dry as we're gonna be frying them later. And we want to essentially make these into a shrimp mince so we can shape them into little discs to fry. I recommend that for half of your mix, you crush the shrimp with the flat side of the knife. Just like I'm gonna crush the competition of this bento battle. Sorry, did you say something? Just keep hitting it with the knife like this until you see it begin to lose its shape. And then for the other half, we'll just cut these into small chunks. Doing this will mean our final fried shrimp will have a nicer texture, and not cutting it all up means it's less likely to fall apart when we fry. Okay, now that's all prepared, we're gonna add our shrimp into a large mixing bowl with 10 grams of corn, 5 grams of diced carrot, 5 grams of green onion, 1 tablespoon of potato or cornstarch. Then finally, we'll add half a teaspoon of salt, as well as half a teaspoon of soy sauce, and a little bit of pepper. We will mix this all together so everything combines well. Next, it's time to form these into little discs like this, just small enough to go into a lunchbox. I made 4 little patties with our 300 grams of shrimp, but making them smaller is fine too. And since we're going to be frying these, we want to sprinkle them lightly with flour on both sides. Now, I have our oil from before, which I've heated to about 160 degrees Celsius or 320 Fahrenheit. Once the oil is heated up, it's time to fry our little shrimp fritters. We will let these fry for around 3 to 5 minutes or until they start to turn a nice golden brown color. And that's dish number 4 done. Nice and crispy shrimp Satsuma-Age. Let's see Chef PK try to beat that. When me and Chef PK agreed to do this challenge, we set 4 dishes and rice for our bento. But just normal white rice is a bit boring, right? So let's make something called Musubi, which is essentially like an onigiri, but in a sandwich shape. It's not cheating, it's still rice. Now for Musubi, you can add anything you want. Think of it as like a sandwich. So I've got some things like bacon, tuna, cheese, and salmon. Also, when we make musubi, it'll taste better if we use vinegared sushi rice, which I've explained in my previous videos. Check the link below in the description for a recap on how to make it. Now, making musubi is super easy. All we need to do is take 1 large sheet of dried nori seaweed, which we will lay out on top of some plastic wrap, and we will cut halfway down the middle. Then, in one corner, we're going to add our rice, and in every other corner, let's add our ingredient of choice. For this, I'm going with lettuce, bacon, and tuna mixed with some vegetables I had left over, and sliced cheese. Once we have a different ingredient in every corner, all we have to do is fold. 1 corner up, and across, and over like this. Take the wrap from beneath and wrap that around so we can fix the shape a little bit. Now, cut that in half. And look at that! Just like a little rice sandwich. Perfect for a bento. And still rice. So, not cheating. And if you're feeling lazy, You can achieve a similar Musubi effect by just placing your ingredients in the middle of your seaweed and folding over like this. Let's cut this in half again. Now all that's left to do is assemble our bento. Let's cut up our chicken roll from before. We cooked this to perfection, guys. Good job! Now, it's time to put all of these together. Okay, our bento is done! Make sure to check out Chef PK's bento as well. Check the description for a link to his video. Tell us in the comments which you think looks best. Today, we made lots of different dishes with special rice. But you can make whatever you like. それでは、いただきます！こんなにたくさんあると迷ってしまいますけれども、今日はこれ、やっぱりこのチキンをいただきます。めっちゃくちゃ美味しい。Make sure to check out the vote on Chef PK's channel in the community tab. Vote for whose bento you think looks the tastiest. I definitely won! 絶対に負けないぞ!